Fintech Chatter Podcast, brought to you by Tier 1 People, the leaders in executive search for fintech ventures.
Welcome to Fintech Chatter, the show where fintech leaders join me for a chat. I'm your host, Dexter Cousins, and today's guest is Pablo Gil Brusola from Prophero. Founded in July 2021, Prophero is Australia's leading Proptech platform, redefining property investment through cutting-edge data and AI technologies. The platform empowers over 1,000 clients worldwide to craft high-return, low-risk property portfolios through a simplified process. Pablo joins me from Barcelona, where he's leading Prophero's international expansion. I chat to Pablo about the Prophero journey and get his tips on how Aussie founders can take their offering to a global audience. Pablo, welcome to your Fintech Chatter debut.
Thanks so much, Dexter, for inviting me. It's a real pleasure, man.
It's fantastic to have you. Barcelona, what a city, what a place. It was actually the last place I went to before or visited before COVID hit. My wife and I went there for a 5-day trip. What an amazing, amazing city.
Amen. And you can't imagine now with the energy, summer coming, great weather, like Europe in its maximum, at its peak, man. It's so nice. I mean, I've always said like there's two great countries in the world. They are Australia and Spain. So I'm lucky to be living in both of them. So
fantastic.
Yeah, super happy, man.
We're going to be talking about the Prophero journey. And look, I guess, obviously, you're not an Aussie. So first up, do you want to tell us a little bit about Prophero and what it does, the big problem that you solve?
Yeah. So the problem we're solving is that property wealth creation, like investing in real estate, it's a very difficult process. It's non-transparent. It's very localized, and not professionalized at all. So Prophero is that one-stop shop platform that allows our clients to create, to optimize, and to grow their property wealth, and to do it globally. Okay, so we, first of all, use data to find the best areas to invest. Secondly, we have a tech platform where the idea is to process everything from your app. So you'll be able, similar to ETFs or where you will just manage everything passively through the app. And then we do it on a global scale. So same as ETFs where you will invest anywhere in the world, we believe the same way with property.
Oh, wow. So I guess first off, who are you, who's it aimed at? Who are your clients and your customers?
So initially when we started, we always thought it would be white collars, expats, good jobs, having extra money and not knowing how to get into the property ladder. And then the realization was, man, there's a much wider audience, which is those immigrants who are starting there. It's a way to increase your social status, to have more of a financial freedom through that passive income generated by property. So it's professionals, young people who start having their savings.
Awesome. Now, obviously you've spent a lot of time in Australia. You kind of would know the challenges here of getting onto the property ladder, making that first investment. We've seen some interesting approaches over the last decade or so, fractional investing. We've seen, which is a great concept, but didn't kind of quite work, in practice. And particularly here in Australia, you don't go to a barbecue and you boast about owning, a brick in a property, right? You're boasting about the portfolio and the holiday home up on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. How did you kind of get that breakthrough of being able to target the right customer with the right idea?
I think, Dexter, you're spot on, first of all, that emotional component that comes with, okay, my property portfolio, not my my portfolio of shares.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about their number of Amazon shares, but they do speak about, okay, man, I've got this property here. There's an emotional component that makes it very, very powerful. And it's not only Australia. You realize real estate is across the globe, everywhere. Like here in Spain, people are like mad about property. Ireland, like US, anywhere. Like it's quite wide, the idea of property ownership. So that's one, the emotional component. And then the second that we realize is that there's a global phenomenon called rent vesting. So our generation are not able to buy the property there, where they live in the area they like. Let's say, when I was an expat, I used to live in Bondi, obviously, like the expat community, beautiful place. But man, I lived in a small apartment paying a massive rent. I could not afford buying the property I own.
Yeah.
I was living in. But I wanted to keep investing in real estate because I believed in it as a good asset to create, like, in the long-term property wealth. So that phenomenon called rent vesting, it's happening all across. Like, my parents have lived in the same house for 40 years. That doesn't happen in our generation. I've lived in 6 different houses within Australia and now in Europe, like in the last 10, 12 years. So the global economy, the jobs moving from one place to the other, it doesn't make sense to own a place where you're going to live and spend that much money, which financially wise doesn't make sense, the yield you're going to get. So, we've kind of benefited from this trend, and it's global. It's across the globe. So people are having priced out from the areas they want to live. So they end up renting because they rather stay living in that area, but invest in areas that make more sense financially. And that's where our data models play a big role. Like, we select the best areas to invest through our data, like, which tells us, okay, which areas are going to gentrify, which areas have more potential. Think about the risk of having a bad neighbor.
Yeah.
I've heard horror stories of friends of mine owning amazing properties in the Gold Coast and having a crazy neighbor who, man, it's literally like bullying them all day long. And you're sitting in a $34 million property, like, and having a shitty neighbor. So think about the risk of being stuck into that property, because obviously you've invested a lot of money, paid a lot of stamp duty, like have a high mortgage. It's not something that you can, okay, now I'm going to sell, go to the next one. Man, it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
And that's something you most of the times don't realize until you're sitting down there. And in Europe, where we live even in buildings, it's even scarier because you don't know the neighbors you're going to have. So I always say buying a house to live in, it's so risky. So, man, I might as well have my investments where, man, at the end of the day, it's just providing me passive income and living by, like, renting. And if I have any issues, man, I'll just move.
Yeah.
It gives me the flexibility and freedom to do that. Yeah. So then it's true that it has an emotional component, again, the property where you live in. But, man, you put it in a balance, like at the end of the day, okay, you need to be in a very good position in order to make that step.
Yeah, I think you make a really valid point, though, about your parents living in the same place 40 years. I don't think I've lived anywhere more than 8 years, and that's only because we had kids and we wanted them to be settled. But I looked prior to that, and I was moving every 2 years, right? And like yourself, I was Northern Beaches, so, renting the place that I couldn't afford to buy, but, right on the beach at Manly, and, you can have an amazing, you can have an amazing lifestyle and live your dreams, and you don't necessarily have to own the property, right, to have the experience.
Man, I'm a firm believer of that. Like, and again, if for any reason I end up becoming having quite a lot of money, I'm wealthy enough, and I can afford that house to live in that area that I really like, man, then it's a different story. But getting into a massive mortgage, it's not an asset, it's a liability, the place you live in. Man, I might as well make sure, I have a mantra always, I want to go to sleep every day with a quiet mind, relaxed.
Yeah.
Because I already have 4 kids that don't allow me to sleep. So I rather not have the business also, or my mortgages or my finances keep me awake at night, which is something that happens quite often.
Look,
like when you're stressed with financing.
I've got exactly the same philosophy, and it's why we moved out of Sydney. It was, look, I want to have the dream house, but I want to be able to sleep at night as well.
Man, for me, it's the biggest thing. Like sleep at night gives you so much peace of mind everywhere. Like you become happier, healthier, everything. Like and I've gone through that. I mean, in my 12 years experience as an entrepreneur, you can imagine, man. I've gone ups and downs, man. And I told to myself, man, okay, it's kind of time to be sleeping well at night, not having that stress of running out of cash, being caught up with a high mortgage, whatever. Not for me.
So what I want to talk to you about now, and we kind of touched on this before, I think one of the issues that I've seen with a lot of fintechs, over the last 10 years or so, is that the ideas in theory sound great, but the kind of, behavioral economics just don't stack up. Now, clearly, from the discussion we've had, the behavioral economics have stacked up with Prophero. Like in this last 3 years, what kind of growth have you seen? So, how many people are you now? What countries are you in?
So it's been a crazy journey. Like even my previous company had been a crazy journey where we grew bootstrap at a 100% rate year on year for the first 5 years. It was quite insane. But Prophero is a complete different beast. I mean, we've gone from Mikael and myself founding the company like 2 days ago. It was our 3rd anniversary.
Congratulations.
3 years, thank you. To now being over 120 team members, present in 4 countries, growing at a 30% quarter on quarter. We're now sitting at around, in Aussie dollars, 25 million Aussie dollar annualized revenue, positive EBITDA. Man, it is insane, the growth we've experienced. And few learnings from here, one of them being, man, we are solving a real problem. This is the first thing I always challenge entrepreneurs is, okay, man, try to explain me what you're solving. And man, is it a real, like, entrepreneurs tend to like just, okay, imagine the future, like what is the future going to be? Is there going to be a problem in the future? Man, the problems when they arise, like let's solve them when they are, let's not get ahead of time. So that's one of the big things. Like it is a real problem. The unit economics stack up. So we make real money. We're a bit positive just after 3 years with this massive growth. So it was really important for us to reach this milestone, which we reached last month.
Sorry to interrupt, but that 120 people and the unit economics stacking up, and the things that you've mentioned, I think we need to put this into context, right? You launched the business 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember 2 years ago, so it was May 2022, I was ringing the alarm bell to say, look, the game has changed, right? And my clients were going from find us somebody who scaled a unicorn in Silicon Valley to just find us somebody who can keep costs down and still grow the business. Yeah. So 120 people in this environment with the challenges around funding, the challenges around unit economics, and it's not been an easy economy is some achievement, Pablo.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, we're very conscious of that. We are very blessed and we're very aware of it, and we keep reminding ourselves, hey, things are going good now. They may not go for sure they won't go as smooth as they've. I mean, it's not that it's been a smooth journey. It's has always been ups and downs. But that cash control, focus on profitability since day one, both from Mikael and myself. So again, I come from a 9 years experience bootstrapping a company, which for the first 5 years, the first app I watched in my phone was the bank account to see if we had enough money to continue running the business. That was for 5 years every single day. So that's so ingrained in my nature now to control cash, to keep but then you have to balance it with, dreaming and making an amazing, growing fast. I mean, 4 countries, 120 people, as you mentioned, in an environment which is not throwing out money, people giving money for free. It's very challenging, but always with the premise of cash control, man. Cash is king. And there's always, I say there's 2 things that breaks companies, especially at this early stage. The obvious one is cash. Cash will break your company. And then the second one is the partnership between the co-founder relationship. That's also something very important to keep in mind and that can break companies.
What was the kind of genesis for the idea for Prophero, and how did you get it off the ground?
So the idea came from Michael, from my co-founder. He was leading the data and AI practice at McKinsey. So one of these bright minds, mathematicians, like an engineer, and when he stepped out from McKinsey, because again he kind of says he was getting bored, but so he wanted to see where he could start his entrepreneurial journey with applying this data and AI knowledge he had. So he tried one business before this, didn't work. I mean, he didn't give much time, as he's thinking in 3 months it's going to work. But anyway, it didn't work out. And then he saw property investment is if not the one of the biggest financial decisions that anyone will make in their lives. And still, again, it's totally locally biased, not transparent at all, not data driven. It's very, trust the real estate agent, the neighbor. I mean, it's not the way to go, right?
Yeah.
So especially when you see the rest of the industries being much more analytical, data driven. So he saw the opportunity of applying these data models he built to property investment. And him and I were friends from 8 years ago from the expat community around Bondi. We live just 2 minutes away from each other. So I used to go camping, surfing, whatever. And in one of those walk chats, because I had stepped out from my previous company, we were chatting. He was telling me the idea. I had been a property investor myself for the last, since I had some money, I started investing in property. So I built a decent property portfolio. And then he came to me with this data model, say, well, there's an opportunity here. Why don't we, this is not for you to continue investing, but there's an opportunity to build a company based on these data models and on a tech approach to make the process move. So I was hooked straight away, and my plans on taking some sabbatical, I decided to put them apart and start a business again.
Yeah. How did you first become an entrepreneur?
So I've always had this mentality. I'm the fourth of 5 brothers at home. So kind of it is a trend where the last ones are survival. So I always tended to...
Mate, you want to try being the first one. I've got to look after the little ones.
Yeah, I think at least what I wanted is to be able to have some money to pay my expenses, whatever. So I was the kind of guy selling beers in the door of a nightclub or whatever. Always trying to... And not that I came from my family has given me everything. Don't take me wrong. I come from a good family. But that, way to try to find out a way to I don't know, to just make some money.
Yeah.
Came from quite young. And then I was working corporate and I was the worst employee. I mean, I couldn't see myself. I remember getting an advice from one of my first bosses I had, managers. And he came to me and told me, hey, Pablo, you know what? I'm going to give you an advice. I was, okay, look, man, excited. Let's see, I'm here to learn. And he comes to me and tells me, never leave the office before your boss. And man, that was for me. This place is not for me. What a terrifying place I'm joining, man.
Yeah.
You know, when you don't admire at all the boss you have, man, that was me.
Yeah.
So straight away I knew it was not for me. And man, I'm always thinking you always regret in life what you don't do.
Yeah.
Rather than what you don't do.
Yeah.
Rather than what you do. So man, I had to try it. I had no mortgages. I had no kids. My girlfriend back in the days, who is now my wife, supported me. So I was okay.
So was this in Australia or was this back in Spain?
So back then I was living in Madrid, but I had done an exchange program in Australia. I'm an engineer as a background. So I had studied at RMIT in an exchange program with uni. And man, I got in love with the country, with it's everything to be done here, man. It's a very emerging country, so many opportunities. It was a lucky country. So I told to myself I had to come back. So I decided to quit my job and go to Australia, a one-way ticket, and see how it goes, man.
Yeah.
And that's how I started my journey. I knew I wanted to start something. I didn't know what, but I knew I wanted to start my own business. And in Australia, because it's a lucky country, man. It's a country full of opportunities. At least to kick off, it's an amazing country.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that because I've got a, not dissimilar story. I bought a one-way ticket. It's actually 20 years ago next month that I moved to Australia. And I remember rocking up, and I had a suitcase and a laptop, and that was like literally all I had. And you kind of, I feel exactly the same way. I look back now, I've got my own business, I've got a beautiful wife, I've got family, had an amazing life. It really is, for me, the lucky country as well, right? And the kind of place where you can rock up with a suitcase and a laptop and make a new life, right? Without having any friends or family or anything here. But I wanted to kind of ask you about, that how you kind of made that first step, right? Like, because you get here, you don't know many people, you were even younger than me, right? You kind of, I was fortunate, I had a job, I could kind of, at least pay for myself. How did you get I guess the kind of first steps into that first entrepreneurship gig?
Yeah, I mean, look, I one thing I learned from my grandpa, who was also an entrepreneur. I asked my dad, what did my grandpa do to be so successful? No, he was quite a big entrepreneur, and the response was he spoke to everyone. He was
Right.
networking constantly. He was learning from everyone.
Yeah.
Man, he would speak to the stones. And you never know, man, who you're gonna end up talking to that may open
to
you.
the stones of
Man, trust me, like, and then you never know what door is who's gonna open you the next door.
Yeah.
So that's something both my ex-business partner, well, he's still my business partner because I am still shareholder, but like, and I did since the beginning, we were constantly, okay, we would set up every Monday, okay, let's set up some targets, objectives on this type of business that we're launching, and let's try and get it out there. Testing, learning, speaking to someone. So just to give you a few examples there, like accounting at the beginning, for us, everything was expensive, obviously. Like we came from like Europe to Australia, it's an expensive country. So until you start earning from Australia, like everything is ultra expensive. So even like to set up the first company, it would ask for us 10 grand to set up or whatever. And it was no way, man. Yeah. So we ended up like finding, after speaking to many other people, an accountant that would take pity of us. Okay, don't worry, man. I'll take care of it. Just pay me the minimal expenses. It's like for the ASICs, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll say that for you for free. Do the accounting. Whenever you have money, I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
For us, it was mind blowing to see, okay, man, that generosity, because it usually comes from entrepreneurs that have started from scratch.
Yeah.
It is a trend to give back. Yeah. And I've done it like several times with a lot of people, man, spending time with them, giving them tips, showing them, even giving them whatever financial resources I have, like whatever. So it was an amazing realization to see, okay, man, people are willing to help.
Yeah. Yeah. I think genuinely. And I think there's kind of this fine line, right, between hustle and hassle. And I think a lot of people have confused hassle, right, with hustle. And for me, hustle is just when people see that, you're not going, you're not asking them for money. You haven't come up with a pitch deck. That's a rubbish idea. And you're asking somebody for $1 million, but you've actually gone out there and you've proved something and you're kind of showing that real kind of hustle and determination to make something work. That's when it clicks. And you, as you pointed out, right, people are super generous with their time and their resources 100%. And they want to kind of help and be part of the journey.
And it has to be genuine, Dexter. I feel like there's so much bullshit. Apologies for the word, I remove that one, man. But like,
no, I'm happy for you to say that word. I think it's the appropriate
so
word,
much
right?
of it, man. And thinking that money is given for free and just with I'm not saying no. Each one has their own methods. Like I learned not to criticize anyone. Like that. Any entrepreneur is valuable for me because, man, it's so difficult to get out there and do so. But, man, when it comes genuine, and it is so much more powerful. Even to me, I get approached by so many on LinkedIn or whatever, like with crazy ideas, crazy things, whatever. And, man, whenever I see a genuine message, I will respond always. I will take time to say, okay, hey, how can I help, whatever, or where can I guide you? Man, I like genuine people.
Yeah. You mentioned something before about the kind of pivot point in your career of the boss giving you the advice, and I remember having a pivot point in my career when my boss gave me advice. Mine was I was just getting really frustrated being a a manager and a kind of team leader. And the thing that I couldn't get my head around was that, people were coming to work for different reasons down that path. And I kind of wondered, from you as a leader and that journey that you've gone on, now you've got 120 people. I'm pretty certain not all 120 are going to be entrepreneurs and are going to have the same drive and the kind of same things that have kind of, helped you on your journey. So how have you managed that kind of one frustration, but also to build a culture where the business is evolving and the business is thriving?
So, man, I think to every entrepreneur and every startup, like recruitment and talent is the biggest challenge. We have a lot of processes in place to avoid the toxic people.
Yeah.
So that's what we don't want. We know what we don't want. Now, there's different roles for different people. Like you don't want everyone to be an entrepreneur, because then it would be as much as chaos is something that I appreciate, like that freedom within a framework. It's not meant for everyone. You need the more doers, you need the more entrepreneurs. So there's a combination of everything. So for us at the leadership level, man, they all come from being entrepreneurs, most of them. They drive. Yes, they have their own ways of working, and you can't pretend to have them working your way. That's not what I want. I want them to, hey man, this is the North Star, this is the vision, this is where we want to reach. Let's see how we get there.
That's you mentioned that, right? And that's the biggest challenge that I've seen working with businesses that are kind of at that next stage where you have to bring in other execs, is that the founders recognize that they need to bring in people to help them. But then when they come in, they find it really difficult to let go and trust that person, especially if they've been brought in externally and they're not within their network. How have you managed to kind of let go and kind of trust the people coming in so that, they can come in and, as you said, do it their way, not the way that you want it to be done?
So there's two things here. First of all, it may not come from your network, but you have to make it your network.
Right.
At least what works for me. Like to bring an exec, man, you're giving them so much responsibility that you might as well trust that person.
Yeah.
So you don't want, again, what works for me, it doesn't necessarily work for other people. What has worked for me is, first of all, trust. I need to trust that person. So I need to have some kind of relationship or know them for a while before even joining. So, and this has happened, or can refer from one or the other. So trust for me is one of the most important things. Once you have built the trust, letting go for me is very natural. I am, like in the company, they call me master dispatcher, man. I will just let go. If I'm trusting you, I trust you. And I walk the talk. Man, I'm not going to be managed. Like we set up the clear OKRs, clear North Star vision. Man, surprise me. That's why you're there, and you're much better than I am at what you're doing. I'm good at very, very few things. Like that's the humble mentality I try to put into myself. Like, man. So for me, letting go is the easy thing. I mean, it's not easy. I've learned it. Like in the past, it's the only way to scale. I catch up with so many entrepreneurs that they are flat out, drained. Like they think they have to get into all the difficult problems and solve them themselves. For me, the mentality is, man, when I have a very tough problem, is, okay, who can I call or who can I reach out to help me solve this problem? I don't expect myself to solve all the problem. I'm the best at financing, the best at sales, the best at, man, no way. You can't be the best at everywhere. You can't call, and your role as entrepreneur is to attract the best at every role.
Yeah.
So that is my mentality, is constant networking, constant opening my network to learning, like who's going to be the next person who's going to allow me to elevate myself. Yeah. And this is the culture we try to impose in the next layer. So the leadership team, I tell them, hey, I will measure success on you based on how fast you are on removing yourself from a certain task that you're doing. Because at one point, you need to put someone doing that task and you have to go for the next one or task or role or whatever. So you have to constantly reinvent yourself, and you need people who are going to reinvent themselves, because life, like business goes so fast nowadays, man. Like you don't need the hard skills. You need the resilient people, the flexible people, flexible mindsets who are just going to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, look, and that's something that's been a real challenge for the industry globally, right? If you look at, and I like to use Uber as an example. You had a guy who, 2010 creates an app pretty much from his bedroom. In 2016, there's like 40,000 people around the world. He's got regulators going after him. It's valued at $60 billion. And the media are calling him out for acting like a jerk. And I'm thinking, I'd be acting like a jerk if I went on that journey as well, right? Like, as humans, to be able to develop that quickly. But that's what business is demanding of us now, right? And if you look at the stages of growth that you've gone from 1 to 20 people, it requires sometimes a different person, from 20 to 50 to 50 to 100 to 100 to 200. And I think the trick is for all of us, whether it's our careers or people as entrepreneurs, is how do you you might necessarily do it all in the one role, but how do you over your career get it so that you can take a business from 1 to 1,000 or 2,000 people or 10,000 people, and that whole process of development and growth just never ever ends, right? And
Never.
I think that's
never.
why it's you have to have a break from it sometimes, right? Because it's just it's intense.
Yeah, but again, it all comes down to talent again. Like, if you have the right people, you'll be able to disconnect, to have a life.
Yeah.
And I am very firm on that. My family time, my health time. I am very strict on that. Like, I don't compromise it for the business. It's as important one or the other. And one thing that you mentioned, there's always going to be the critics calling the entrepreneurs, calling against the business people, and they're going to call us jerks.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of that. I know that at one point, people will call after, hey, Pablo, hey, Prophero, doing this bad. They always will look for the things that you've done wrong. So as humans, everybody will do things wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody. That's natural. Best organizations in the world have done things wrong.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the beginning of the conversation, it's if you're able to go to sleep every night, relax, it's because you've done it in the best way possible, or at least being true to your values. Transparency, honesty, man, doing things genuinely well.
Yeah.
Now, mistaking, it's part of the journey. We're going super fast. It's for sure that we're going to mistake. Now, as long as we're doing it in good, like doing things in a good way with proper values in place, and that you have the right culture and you select the right people that have the right values. So we don't want toxic people again. We don't want people who are just going to get the dollar smashing someone. That's not the way we operate. Then, man, look, people will chase us. There will be always the critics, whatever. And again, Australia is very business friendly. Trust me, Europe is not business friendly. Like, and Spain less. Like, they will always go against the business people.
Really?
This is natural. Oh, man. The best business people in Spain, Juan Roig, Amancio Ortega. I'm talking about the founder of Inditex, Zara, biggest retailer, the Woolworths of Spain, Florentino Perez, the ACS, Sim. Man, they hammer them. Media hammers them. And they are, man, the best thing that Spain has.
Yeah.
So, but this is very natural in certain countries. So, it's going to happen. Now, you need to be relaxed and go to sleep every night relaxed by knowing you've done the right things.
What's the kind of tech startup scene like in Spain?
Man, it's amazing. The good thing about Spain is that it's the best country. I mean, together with Australia, the best country to live in, and everybody wants to live here. Like, it's true, man. Like, honestly, it is fun. The energy it has, sunny, 360 days a year. Like, it's the energy, it's everything. It's just amazing. So you've got all the Europeans. Like, you pass the Pyrenees up north, it's always cloudy. So everyone wants to live in Spain. So you get the best talent wanting to live here in Barcelona, Madrid, Valencia, like Malaga. You've got like real tech hubs. And man, some areas in Barcelona, you only hear English.
Yeah. Wow.
So it is amazing, the tech scenery here. It's brutal. And then geopolitically wise, it's super well connected because you've got the open to Europe, to South America, even to the US, so to Africa. Like, it's very well positioned in the world. So, man, I love it. I'm loving it here.
And in terms of, I guess, the move of growing a business that's an Aussie business and taking it international, I mean, that's, I guess, the pinnacle for every founder. What have you found have been the ways to do that successfully, and what advice would you give for other founders?
Man, again, it's a lot of try and guess. Like you can plan, do all the business plans, whatever. If I tell you how was the cracking of opening in Spain, like I just sent it to like my network, a few properties I was buying myself. Hey, do you want to invest here? Man, all of them wanted.
Yeah.
So the MVP, okay, done. There's a business here. So at the end of the day, this is just like trying, knowing that many of those tries won't work.
So you went and
like,
tested the market first before committing to.
Yeah, but the testing market was through my WhatsApp, my network, like a few connections here and there that I knew they like property investing, and man, all of them wanted in. So I was, man, there's a business for people here in Australia also buying overseas. So, but yeah, definitely Australia is a small market. It's a lucky country, but it's a small country, and it's like away from the world. Like even politically, is very protective from the outside. So you need to go outside to grow. And again, you've seen it like Atlassian, like you've seen like Canva, like all these great companies. They have moved away to make it bigger, and that's what makes Australia big. Like from Australia to the world.
Yeah. What is it that's got you excited about fintech right now, Pablo?
Man, fintech startups is the excitement of every day being different, man. You know, now, like I used to plan my Sundays, like, okay, let's organize. Now, man, I just say, okay, what's ahead this week? Like, what's new this week? Yeah. And there's always something new, man. Today is a podcast with you. Tomorrow is this journey, this networking event I have. It's always like it's the changing environment constantly, and being always connected to the changes. Because when you speak to other entrepreneurs who are doing also amazing things, you end up learning from them. Yeah. So it's following the world, which is very changing. So you are following the world. That's what excites me. It's just being on the move constantly.
Yeah. In the intro, I talked about you using data and AI. We haven't talked about AI once. You've just talked about customers and actually getting out and talking to them and proving the concept before building, the solution or building the platform. What advice do you have for founders who are kind of, torn at the minute, thinking, hey, we got to put AI on the pitch deck to earn us money, or we need to sprinkle AI on this to make an attractive solution? What's your thoughts on that, and what advice would you have for people?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, don't put bullshit. Like again, going back to man, make it genuine. Like, is it real AI or not? At the beginning, we were more data analytics, like, and we are very like data driven. It was not about AI. And eventually, now it's like we're starting now with all the Gen AI, all the opportunities there. But man, at the beginning, without resources, don't expect to have the best AI. Like, I mean, you don't have the resources. So.
And where do you get the talent, right? It's so expensive to get the talent. Like, how can you? I actually see that a lot, Pablo, where I've got people who are putting pitch decks together and they're going to build this thing. And the first thing where are you going to find the people to build it?
Yeah.
Like, where are you going to?
And for us, like, I mean, my business partner, he's like my co-founder. He's data and AI. So that's why we could be kind of, but again, otherwise, no way we could put it. So that was one of the biggest points of differentiation. Like we are true to our values and true to the use of very believers on how data and AI is going to transform the way we operate the business. We find the next gems, areas to invest in. But again, there's always the combination also on people. Like for us, it's not just data which will find you the best properties. It's also the relationships we have with those real estate agents, with those local real estate agents who are the ones who really know how to get the best deals.
Yeah. It's been fantastic having you on, Pablo. Before we wrap up, what can we expect from Prophero in the next 12 months?
Look, our plan is to continue growing the business sustainably. So we will reach 40 million annualized by the end of the year and being around 10% EBITDA positive. That's the financial plan. And then to continue developing our app where we can make like our vision true, where you can just manage your property wealth through a click. That is what we're continuing to build.
Brilliant. we get some amazing talent listening to this podcast. If anybody's listening to this and they'd like to find out more about careers at Prophero, where's the best place for them to go?
LinkedIn is usually where we post everything, every job opportunity. Keep on networking. A lot of our job ads, we don't even have time to post them because they end up being covered through our network.
Yeah.
So, man, go on network, meet our Australian CEO, Suvid, the team there. Expose yourself if you're interested.
Hey,
man.
we're listening to in over 40 countries, right? So there might be people who are in Spain listening to this.
Here we've got another country CEO here, Jaime, who's great, man. So, or reach out to me. I get approached many times through LinkedIn, and I end up just referring them to our recruiter, internal recruiter.
And if people are interested in the actual product as well, where can they find out more about Prophero and how to invest?
Yeah, so prophero.com. Everything is through the website then, or just downloading the app, and then you can book a call or start your process here.
Pablo, it's been awesome to have you on the show. I really enjoyed this chat.
Dexter, it's been my pleasure, man, and I really thank you for inviting me.
As always, folks, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're new to the show, make sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcast player. And if you're coming back, thanks so much for your support. Until the next episode, keep well. Fintech Chatter is brought to you by Tier 1 People, leaders in fintech executive search. We'll help you bring in world-class leadership talent to build world-class fintech ventures. And you can find us at tier1people.com.